mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life. We won't live in the past. We're making it alive.
It's time for another conversation. Welcome to Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, with other people. And this time around, I have a business consultant and a self sabotage specialist, Dr. Philip Agrios. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Which feeds right into our topic, which is three types of self sabotage behaviors. Let's get right into it. But before we do that, let's set the context. What does that label actually means?
So self-sabotage, what I found was it doesn't undermine you. It's just a self-protection. So
Okay.
I used to be a chiropractor and a functional medicine practitioner. My specialty was thyroid and autoimmune disease. And I stumbled across a biological trait that we're born with that you cannot get rid of. That is the sole reason why we self-sabotage. So it doesn't undermine us, but it actually protects us from the very success that we seek because that success subconsciously is more painful to achieve and sustain. So we go back doing the other things instead of doing what's necessary to move forward and be successful. And when
Okay.
I first found that, I was like, this is too simple. There's no way. So I went out to try to disprove it. And over
Okay.
30 years, researching thousands and thousands of people, not only was I able to prove it, found a way to switch it off instantly, and it works 100% of the time.
Interesting. Interesting. So now that you set the context, let's get right into it. Which is the first one?
First, oh, Saboteur.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, just to get a little context to this, we have three traits that I was able to discover that make
Okay.
up who we are. We call them the director, the supplier, and the communicator, because that's all we do as humans. We direct, we supply, and we communicate. That's it. So when I found it, I found a protective sequence. And that protective sequence is how we react, and you're born with it. So depending on how these three traits are placed when you're born, it comes up with six sequences of human behavior. So there are only six people in the world. And we've gotten to the point
Okay.
of knowing that how each sequence relates to each other, how they create
Okay.
conflict, and how they create great relationships. So one of them, and you may hear that you have all of them because they're all within you, but because of how you were born, you will use one more than the other. So one of them is those of you who are scattered. They're all over the place. They have a hard time focusing and they don't finish tasks. They kind of wing things and they don't follow through. The other one is the one who overly gives. They focus on everybody else's needs and not their own. They have a hard time saying no. And when they get to a point where they give too much, they can become very resentful and find that these people are not reciprocating back and forth with them. And the third one is one that is that they don't communicate well. They stick to themselves. No one really knows what they're thinking or feeling. So people guess, and usually they guess wrong. They overprocess things, and they have a hard time really verbalizing what they want because they don't want to feel stupid or embarrassed. And those are the basic three that we're born with. And out of 7, 8 billion people, there are only three saboteurs.
All right. Is it that okay, you're able to condense it then to three, but is it that people actually can be a combination of all, or is it that there really is one that's usually more dominant?
There's usually one more dominant. We've done thousands and thousands of people, and no one's ever proven this wrong. So, for instance, I don't know if you have any children or those of you out there that have children. Imagine knowing the sequence of each of your children. You will know exactly why they're doing what they're doing. And then on a subconscious level, you can use different words to tap into that to help shift them. So
Okay.
I had a gentleman take my course, and he said, you know, my son's always upstairs playing video games. We can't get him downstairs to interact with the
Hmm.
family. So I asked him a few questions. We ascertained his son's sequence by just asking a couple of questions. I don't have to meet that person. And then within a week, his son was downstairs interacting with the family and the relationship skyrocketed. And the reason is because then he realized he was the one pushing his son back in the room. He was making fun of him because that's how he grew up. But once he
Oh.
understood that that was a backfire for his own son, he shifted it to did exactly what I told him to do, and the relationship skyrocketed. But because his personal life, your personal life and your professional life are one, and the
Mm-hmm.
saboteur and the antidote focused on each other, what happened was we allowed him to see that he was doing the same thing in his professional life. And once he shifted that, things started going well and his business grew as well.
Okay. So you used examples just now, parent, child, workplace, any other type of relationships you
Any
recognize
relationship,
that?
business partners, your own spouse. We've saved marriages on the brink of divorce because we've helped see people that they didn't hate each other. They were just protecting themselves from each other. So I can ask you a couple of questions and ascertain your sequence. And I can tell you everything why you did what you did in the past, why you're doing it now, and why you'll continue doing it, and never ask you a question other than just trying to figure out your sequence. If you had a significant other, I can ask you a few questions, tell you everything about them, and never meet them, and then tell you how you two interact and never again ask a question. So we've gotten down to that science and we teach people how that works, their coworkers to their clients to potential clients. If you have audience that are sales professionals or business owners who try to sell, we find that the reason why people don't sell is because their own saboteur is stopping them because it's more painful to close that person or not. So we teach them why that is occurring and how to understand the other person's sequence and to help them move forward to help pass any resistance. So no matter what the situation is, no matter who it is, the situation between the two sequences are 100% always this way, and it never changes. So it's different than DISC or Myers-Briggs and all those other ones
Mhm.
because you have to take those like probably once a year because things change. This never changes. You are born with this and you will die with this. And there's only one thing to focus on for the rest of your life.
All right. So I want you to use me as an example. So I'm gonna give you a context.
Okay.
So I, in my other life, I am a chair of a department, an academic department. Yes, I have a team between both campuses of almost 30 persons. Now, recently, I've recognized, well, not recently, I've noticed over time that because I have to be managing persons between both campuses, it can get a little tricky, for want of a better word. I have to be careful what I say. But what is interesting in all of that is that I have, in terms of full time, in terms of the core, it's really about 4 or 5 persons. So everybody else is really adjunct because I have to then maneuver the different personalities, the different yeah. It's been challenging. It continues to be challenging, but I'm finding a
Yeah.
way. I'm interested.
Imagine
Right.
knowing each and one of those. You'll know why they're doing what they're doing and then
Yeah.
be very specific to what they
Hmm.
need. Now, I'm going to go a
Hmm.
little step further. Your
Okay.
business has its own inborn sabotage and trade and antidote. So we show business owners how they and their staff subconsciously sabotage the business through the same thing because the business also has a sequence and it's treated just like a human being. Now, one thing we're not talking about is the antidote. The
Yeah.
antidote is the exact opposite to the saboteur. So
Hmm.
when you use an antidote, it is impossible to self-sabotage. For instance, you ever see the domino masters? They push this one domino and goes, right?
Hmm.
And let's say balloons are released. Well, what's the
Right.
last thing you see? The balloons.
Hmm.
That's your imposter syndrome, your anxiety, your procrastination, your over talking, your overthinking, your anxiety, whatever you see and feel last, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's what you see last. So what do? We take our coping methods and do what? We put them on the balloons, not the one domino. The one
Hmm.
domino, it's hard. What's easier, hold down all the balloons and stop pushing the domino. That domino is the inborn sabotage trait that creates every negative emotion that you experience that leads to that frustration and desperation. However, when you push it the opposite direction, Now you go down the road of growth, inspiration, motivation, 100% of the time, guaranteed. And when you use your specific antidote that you were born with, it is impossible to self-sabotage. It is impossible to have imposter syndrome or procrastinate or anything else like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
You must go into growth.
Are you guilty or in some way, maybe, you know, engaging in one of these self-sabotage behaviors? We're going to continue the conversation, but we must get a word from our partners. We'll be right back.
You can't live your best life without a healthy immune system. Boost your immune system the delicious way with Zappy's organic juices and punches. Made from local produce with zero added sugar, our juices cleanse and revitalize your body as they boost your natural immunity. Try our delicious flavors. Beat It, Berry Bomb, Get Fresh, Ton Up, and Island Splash. Find us on Instagram at Zappy's Organics or call or send a WhatsApp message at 1-876-779-8910 to order today. That's 1-876-779-8910. Zappy's Organic Juices and Punches. Live your best life today.
I was the person who the teacher would always call on to read aloud in class, and that traveled with me until whenever. But if you took away the paper, if you took away the book, I would freeze. I would die right on the spot. Let me introduce you to my 17, say 18-year-old self. Good with content if I'm to read. However, if I was to ever express my thoughts without writing them on paper, it was no good. Noreen was the one who recognized my flaw, but she didn't leave it there. She led me along the journey of developing my communication skills. She allowed me to know how to critically think on the spot, but not only that, how to arrange my thoughts logically so that I can come across as persuasive in my argument.
Langdo Language Institute was created to meet your language and communication needs. All of our packages were created just for you. We are passionate about language and dedicated to your success. We offer the CSEC English program, the Study Body program, the Get Ahead with English program, and the Business Communication program. Contact us at 767-285-0938 or email us at landolanguage@gmail.com, because the real question is, how can we help you?
Let's continue the conversation with Dr. Philip Agrios. He's a self-sabotage specialist. I'm listening to you and I'm saying, this is, it's interesting that you could literally over time be able to say, this is how this will literally play out if I and you said you did this after years of research, and you literally, as they would say, you have it down to a science at this point. That's what this is.
Yeah, there's nothing like this in the world. There's nothing like this. You cannot find it in any way teaching. This is totally different. And this is a law that I discovered, and that's what I focus on. This is why I left my practice and doing this full time, focusing. It helps with so many different things. For instance, we had a coach who took the course, and she wasn't having a great relationship with her husband. Within 3 to 4 weeks, their relationship started to grow and get better because not only did she understand her sequence, she understood his, but he never knew she was taking the course. We showed him how to shift it. We've had parents say, my kid came up to me and go, who are you? Where's my mother? Why aren't you yelling at me? Because now they know this is what this
Shift.
child is doing. And now I can talk in such a way and use the words that subconsciously will tap into their antidote and shift them, just as I would with all my clients or anybody else that I help teach.
What, given the fact that this is not known as we would hope, so it could then change how we relate to each other. What would be your advice to somebody who will watch this and who will listen to this? What would you say to them to say, find out what that sequence is so that you can have better and healthier relationships?
Right, because one of the things I would tell them before even tell them to go to, we have a couple of ways to people they can understand this and be taught this and
Mm-hmm.
change their lives.
Mm-hmm.
First thing is if you feel anything other than in the flow, resistance, stress, concern, anxiety, worry, anything that causes you to get out of the flow. The
Mm-hmm.
first question, and write this down, guys, why am I protecting myself at this moment in time? See, when you release your personal professional power and you hit that wall, your saboteur kicks in to protect you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not an idiot or a loser, all the other 100 words we say to ourselves. You're just in protection. So imagine when you hit that wall, as you start to contract, knowing the one biological trait that you were born with that is doing it, and then using what we call the antidote, the exact opposite, where you just shift it instantly you go into growth. And now you're doing this compared to going into that hamster wheel over and over and over again. And
I'm
it's
gonna
just that shift.
Okay. What about some people who they claim they want to have better relationships, but they're so comfortable with the way they are that they really don't want to change?
Hmm. Yeah, because it's more painful to change
Uh,
than to stay where they are, right? Because of whatever the thought process is, based on what happened. See, everything outside of you is you. That person that shows up that you can't stand is a part of you you can't stand. They're just showing up to show you. That's why you're so pissed off at them. How dare you, right?
yeah,
But when
yeah.
you realize that person is you, and by that's tapping into the saboteur, and you use the antidote, two things happen. That person leaves or they change because they want to still stay in your world. We see this consistently. So
Mm,
if you don't like your outside world, it is based on where you are, of what you're feeling comfortable. Right. So when you're feeling that comfortable of pain, that pain is less. That's why we had very high success rates with our autoimmune patients, the sick of the sickest. When we
mm-hmm.
found out was people will come to me and go, I had a pizza. You're going to kill me. I said, I'm going to kill you. How much pain have you been in? I've been in pain for 4 days. Okay. I'm glad you did that. It reinforces it. But I'm more curious. What was the trigger that caused you to eat that pizza knowing that you'd have 4 days of pain? Knowing that 4 days of pain was less painful than dealing with that trigger. And what we found was that trigger came, they used their saboteur, and then they used their numbing agents, eating, drinking,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But then when we've helped them to understand that trigger, and then they used the antidote, the exact opposite, two things we found. They would lessen their numbing agent or they would stop it. So therefore, the inflammation and all the stuff they were doing would become less. And then therefore they would continue to move forward. We've worked with veterans with PTSD. We've helped
Mm,
tremendously with that because PTSD is just a protection. We had a gentleman, 12 tours, CEO, very successful. Within 3 weeks, he went out dancing with his wife for the first time because in his mind, that was the battlefield. But because he was
wow.
using the antidote, it was that quick. We had gentlemen who had combat injury. He would instantly just flip out on things. Within the first week, using his antidote, he was able to thwart two major episodes that he would have done. So this is the type of results that we get, helping people to get through their procrastination or their imposter syndrome, those that are overly talking and they just get in your
Mm,
face, those who overthink and it just keeps them in this mind thing, or people that can't disconnect from things and it's this constant over processing and whatever that creates you to get out of that flow because you're just in protection.
yeah, yeah,
Is it
yeah.
simple? Heck yeah. Is it easy? Never said it was easy. However, when you do it and do a little bit, see, when you learn the antidote, we just tell you do it 10 to 15%. I'm not ask you to go
Mm-hmm.
at 100%. Just do a little bit and see, wow, that worked. We've seen people change things dramatically within an hour. But depending
Wow.
on what's going on in their business, what's going on in their personal life, it may take longer because now other things need to come into play as them helping that. But you got to realize we never tell people you're going to get rid of your saboteur. You don't get rid of it because that's stupid. That's your protector. Why would you want to
Mm-hmm.
get rid of your protector? You just learn how to dance with it instead of fight it and not use it as long. So people that procrastinate may procrastinate for 2, 3 days. Now people are procrastinating for 5 minutes or even maybe a couple of
Mm-hmm.
hours, but now they're getting back to what they need to do and get things done compared to losing 3 days or 3 months.
Somebody will think that the fact that you quote unquote know the secret, your relationships are perfect. Is that
Mine.
so? Mm-hmm.
So I'm divorced, but I have a beautiful, loving, great relationship with my wife. Do we have arguments or disagree? Do we have arguments? No. Our children used to laugh, go, that their arguments is us just talking. But we respect each other. We've never called each other names because
Okay.
we understand about the saboteur. But when the person goes into that, we know whether or not to disconnect from them. Once in a while, do we, do that? Absolutely. But are we going to bed for 4 days pissed off at each other? No. Is it just a few things? Because time out. Okay, I went
Mm-hmm.
back to the
Mm-hmm.
old me. Let's try this
Okay.
again. My ex put a major wedge between my two girls. Okay. Until I got to a point where I was self-sabotaging. I was trying to do everything. I was the divorce guilty guy, the divorce dad, right, with guilt. Until
Mm-hmm.
one day I had it. I just had it. And I said, if I never see my children again, I'm okay. Now, some of the women out there are going to like, what? I got to a point where I had to let it go. And
Okay.
once I really, truly in my belly felt that let go, things started to shift. I started to say, I am respect. I need to be valued. I need to have that respect. And by understanding that, our relationship now is strong. They're 32 and 27. And we have such a strong relationship. No one will ever
Nice.
get that. I have 4 stepchildren. I have 7 grandchildren. I'm be talking to one of my stepchildren tonight. He's going through some times. Last night we talked. I told him this is your sequence. He goes, yeah, I know, you're right. This is exactly what I'm doing. So now we're going to talk, help him through it, help him to understand the antidote and move forward. He took my course 4 years ago, 3 years ago, and within 3 weeks got a promotion. So even with my wife, her particular situation, she was never getting promoted because she wasn't expressing herself. She was, her brilliance was inside her. As she
Mm-hmm.
started doing it, she started getting promoted, changed different jobs, which she would have never done and done that. So yes, have I done this with my family? Absolutely. The ones that want to listen.
Good, good, good. I noticed you mentioned your course. Tell us a little bit about your course before we wrap up.
Yeah, so we have 3 different ways people can figure out what they want to do. We have a membership, which
Mm-hmm.
is a nominal fee of per month, and they can get their inborn sabotage and training. Slowly just kind of get a little bit about that.
Okay.
Those of they're in corporate or businesses. I do have a 4 or 8 hour workshop that I do. I just did one for the Army. And then we
Okay.
have a higher group coaching course that it's a 6 months course with a money back guarantee, and we guarantee our results.
Okay. And for those who are saying, okay, so I don't live in the US, I don't work US money, so I probably won't be able to afford your course. What's your reaction to those people?
Well, you don't know what the prices are, number one. Number two, we have
Okay.
international clients all over. When
Okay.
we have international clients,
Okay.
I've always had international clients. So we have in that course, yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
why we have the three. We have this and then we have a much lower end. So that because I
Okay.
did that because I wanted people to do this. My goal is to help millions of people. No one knows, we've had thousands of people know this, but we want to hit millions and millions of
Okay.
people. So we want a price point that people can afford. They can start to learn this and move forward. And if they want to go up the road, that's great. If not, they'll get enough here. And they consistently, every week, we send out videos and stuff to help them understand how their saboteur is causing the problem and how to switch that antidote off as well. So we've have it into a point where anybody can afford it.
Okay, okay. As we're wrapping up, if with all of what you said, you could just condense it in a sentence. I know this is going to be difficult. What would be that sentence? With all of that you said, that for all of it, here is the core of all I've said. What's that
You were
core?
born with a biological trait called the inborn sabotaging trait that protects you from any adversity, no matter how big and small. And by using the antidote, it allows you to transcend those immediately.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for sharing, Philip. It was an
It
absolute
was such an honor
pleasure.
to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, with other people. I'm Noreen Daly. Until next time.
Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life. We won't live in the past. We're making